Hi, I'm Mary Petrella from Petrella's Intuitive Insights. And with me is Agatha from Grow Green Girl. And we had decided to do another channel because with the readings that we give, the people we interact with, we get to hear many, many of your stories. And we know that we've had experiences ourselves. So I'm Mary Petrella, and we don't want to talk about ourselves. If you want to know more about us, you can read about us in the link below. But Aggie, just briefly, tell them why we decided to do the channel.
Yes, well, I mean, I think for one thing, I have been personally noticing a lot of friends talking about experiences they've been having, especially with everything that's been going on this past year. It seems like it's really escalated. And it seems like the energies are really intensified, and that the frequency of experiences is also speeding up. And it got us thinking that we've both had a lot of really cool and moving experiences with angels, ancestors, and aliens that we thought this would be a really great space to share the things that we've experienced and why we think we've experienced it, but also to open it up as like a kind of discussion forum, so to speak, for our viewers, because we know a lot of you out there have also had a lot of these really deep and life-changing encounters. And yeah, just seemed like it was a really cool opportunity.
So if there's stories out there, please, in the link below, we will have an email address to email your stories. So if you would like to tell your story, we'll arrange it. Or if you just want to, for us to read your story, Agatha and I are great readers. But
that's true.
Our first show, just to start it off, I just thought that Agatha and I would just tell about angels. We're just going to just talk about angels. So we want to hear your stories about angels or anything of the unusual. But as far as the angels go, as Agatha and I were talking the other day, she started to mention her story about an angel. And as her story started to unfold, I thought, wait, that's how I saw my angel. So yeah. I'm going to go ahead and thank you for the floor first. But I'm going to go ahead and tell the story of my first angel that I had seen. And there's a similarity. But I was in bed, half awake, half asleep state. And I was probably in my 20s. And I was very much though awake, even though I was laying in bed. I was already awake, but I was still not moving about. And at the foot of the bed, I saw a large white, translucent, but yet white figure that had wings, actually wings on the shoulders going back, and longer hair. And he was standing maybe 3 feet away from my bed, watching me sleep. So I know that's what I was seeing. And from that point, I know that I've had other experiences where I haven't really seen it, but I felt the experience of the divine.
And like, what did it feel like when you were in that moment? Do you remember what you felt when you, or what was going through your head, if you even had thoughts that were?
I thought, that's an angel, and he's been watching me all this time. I'm glad you posed that question, because as soon as the angel realized I was watching him, he faded, almost as if he were going backwards, but into the light.
Yep.
But I still knew he was there.
Yeah, that's almost, again, that's why it was so uncanny that we each had this experience, because my story was so similar. And I mean, right down to like the fact that it happened when I was in my 20s. So I wonder if that's significant. I don't know. Um, maybe like a turning point, around that age. But I was like also lying in bed, and so I don't know what you think about this, but for me, it was like I had been having a nap on my bed in the middle of the afternoon. So I was dressed now, and I was lying on top of the sheets. It wasn't the middle of the night or anything. And so I had all the lights on in my room. It was all bright. But I was like, not, I knew I was not asleep because it was different. It was a different feeling than the feeling you have when you're in dreams. But I knew I wasn't awake. But I had this awareness that I was like, I had an awareness of my body. I saw myself lying on my bed. I could look down and see me on the bed, but I couldn't move, So that's how I knew I was asleep, because I was in that sleep paralysis kind of stage.
Uh-huh.
Like you said, it was like right by my left hand, there was like a man kneeling at my bed, and I couldn't move my head, but my eyes could see him sitting there, and it was like, whoa, because part of me was like, I'm not dreaming, I'm in my room, but there's a man here. and I kept looking at him, and I realized like it's not a man. And I began to have this kind of, I don't know, like a recognition moment. And he also had like shoulder length hair. I know he had the light seeming to come, even though there was a light above, it wasn't coming from there. It seemed to be like a light from behind him. Almost like my terrarium, actually. Like you can imagine, like that brightness was so intense that it was almost like he was in shadow. So I couldn't quite make out his features, but I knew he was a man. I knew he had this like shoulder length, or at least like a male, I'll say male, maybe not a human, but he was male energy. And he had, yeah, like a cape or wings or something. I knew he was special. And the weird thing was, I was completely terrified for an instant, but it gradually dawned on me what he was, that was when he started to fade back. He like almost seemed to stretch, like, yeah, stretch back into the lights. Only way I can describe it. And my terror I'm feeling like shivers as I think of it now, because I can remember the feeling I had. It was like, it went from being complete terror to being this, longing is the only word I have for it. Like I was like, please don't leave. And
Yeah.
I could have moved my hand, I would have reached out and grabbed his hand again, because I think he was like holding my hand. But then it was like in that instant, like I woke up, I blinked, and again I was in same space, but almost like a different, I don't know, a veil had come down or something. So it was,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, that's it. Yeah, just saying.
As you were speaking, I was thinking of other instances where it wasn't really an angel per se, but it was a divine presence.
Mm-hmm.
And without getting into the sad story of it all, I was going through a very difficult time. Again, I think I was in my 20s or early 30s, and I was going through a divorce. And as I was going through this divorce, my my father passed away, and I delivered a baby, so everything happened within weeks of each other. Wow. So it was horrific. So when my father passed away, I remember going upstairs to my bedroom, and I laid down on the bed, and I was just sobbing because I had a newborn baby. My husband just left me. My newborn baby was baby number 3. Okay. And I couldn't even drive yet. So it was just a very difficult time. So difficult. I laid there as I was sobbing in bed. Now, mind you, I had a newborn baby, and I kind of feel that I am a good mama, right? I'm a good mom. I fell into the deepest sleep. And it felt like somebody took
Probably.
a wool blanket out of a warm dryer and blanketed my whole body. And I fell into this deep sleep. And when I woke up from this sleep, there was this unnatural strength that I had to get through my father's funeral. I didn't take any kind of prescription drugs because I was nursing this new baby. So I knew that that was the divine during that time. Was it the angels that they speak of in the Old Testament and actually in the New Testament, where the angels come down and they will touch us to strengthen us?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought, is that the possibility? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
In fact, I think because I feel like in you, you have that truth here, and this is always right.
mm-hmm,
So the fact that you feel that.
yeah, it was a divine strength. And I really felt that it was angelic, as if I was just okay, like touched.
Yeah.
You get up, you have things to do. You're not done yet. So that too is more of an angel experience. Now I'm on a roll, and then I'm going to give you the floor again.
It's fine. I'm hearing some of these for the first time, so I'm really interested to hear.
I ancestor story. Remember, I told you I told you that my father was assisting me. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just have to say, I gave a reading to a client earlier today. I swear to you, it came to me at random. She was trying, anyway, it doesn't matter, her story. But
no, please,
she was connecting, she was trying to understand what direction she wanted to go in life. And I told her there were specific ancestors that were connecting with me, telling her to reach out. And I swear to you, her little dog barked right at the same time. And you were just talking about your ancestors, and then your dog barks. And it was like, and like maybe it sounds silly, but that's how they communicate. It's
validation.
Yes.
As well. Yeah. When I'm giving a reading and I have an animal bark, or I that's a validation for me. Or if the wind starts blowing real strong.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
I just wanted, that was a validation, I think, for you.
Thank you. Thank you. And no, there are no interruptions when you're in the world of the metaphysics. So I appreciate that. And talking about ancestors, and I had this new baby going through a divorce, baby number 3. My father had stepped forward. He had to, you're not allowed to drive a car for a while, or he drove me to the store, to doctor appointments. He was really right there helping me through this whole situation. And one morning before my father's accident, I was wide awake, and I again saw my godmother, and she had already passed on. And she came to me and she said, "You're going to be all right, Pumpkin." That was her pet name for me. And she was wearing particular clothing, the print. She looked great, like in her 30s. She looked fabulous. And she, said, "You're going to be okay. You're going to get through this." And then she showed me 2 boys. Now, I told you I just had this baby, right? Baby number 3. So it's boy, girl, boy. And I thought, oh my God, are these 2 young boys that she's showing me, are these my babies? Are they my sons? But I thought, no, because the one's a newborn. I was trying to make sense of all of this. So I got up for the day, got dressed. My father came to visit me like he did every morning, to see how the baby was, see how I was, to make sure we all ate or needed anything. So my father came, and I said, "Hey, I had a dream about your sister, my godmother." And he looked at me, and it grabbed his attention, and he got very anxious. And he said, "What did she say to you?" And I told her the message that I would be okay. And there were two boys. They seemed to be close in age, but I would be okay. Everything was going to be all right. And he became almost frantic and panicked. And he said, whatever you do, do not talk to your sister Angela. She stayed home from school today, and don't talk to her. And so, of course, as soon as he left, the first thing I did was call my sister.
Yeah.
And she said that she was wide awake, putting on her shoes, and my aunt appeared to her as well, telling her everything was going to be all right. And at that time, my dad and his brother were actually in the dining room talking to each other. And she was so frantic about the whole seeing my aunt, who's deceased, come forward and tell you it's going to be okay. Now, something is definitely going to happen. We found out since then, another one of my cousins, first cousins, also saw her. And we all saw her wearing the same dress.
Yeah, I'm getting shivers hearing this.
Yeah, all wearing the same dress. Well, it ended up my dad and his brother were both killed in a tragic automobile accident. And my godmother came forward to tell us that everybody's going to be okay. You're all going to be all right. Yeah. And my dad knew on some level that that's what was going on. He became, so there's the ancestors that come back to prepare us, to comfort us, to tell us, hey, you're going to get through this.
Wow. Oof. Well, I wanted to ask your perspective, and then I have a few thoughts too on it, but I want to hear your thoughts on what are angels? What do you think angels are? And why do you think that they come into our lives?
Very good question. Well, the show, of course, isn't limited to what my spiritual belief, but I do believe that angels were created by the divine. Man is not an angel. And when we cross over, our spirits, like the spirit of my godmother, she may assist me and she may be a guardian to me, but she is not an angel. Angels were created by the divine. They are not human. And of course, on one episode, we'll probably do episodes on fairies, different kind of energies, earth energies.
Yes.
And, opposite of angels would be the demonic negative energies, or let's just say the fallen angels. And that could be a topic within itself. But to answer your question, angels are, in my belief, they are creation of the divine.
I would agree with that. And you and I, we have, some beliefs that overlap and some that differ. And I love that, because I love, sharing our different perspectives. But I can see a lot of truth in what you're saying. And I've wondered a lot on what the nature of angels really is. And maybe in some ways it's unknowable because they are of the divine. And, of course, we're all of the divine. But yes, I sometimes wonder if angels are maybe, and this is maybe is true at the same time as what you're saying, but it's like, I'm very interested in dimensions and versions of reality, and understanding that we as humans have a really limited perception on everything that is out there and in here, And I sometimes wonder if angels are beings that are able to, can consciously exist across all the dimensions, because they never lose that direct connection to their source, to that divine.
I would have to say yes to that.
Yeah.
I, when you go back into ancient texts, more than just the Christian Bible, ancient text, there's been a divine intervention on
Yes.
humanity,
There's so many stories.
oftentimes. I mean, there's even angels of Persia spoken about. So there's actually, not only do we have our individual angels, but each nation has their own angels, protecting the nations, I believe.
Mm-hmm. I also, it's really interesting that you say that, because it's true that cultures all over the world have these stories and these,
Yes.
I
And we'd
don't
like
think
to
they're
hear your
all
story.
stories. I think they're real. Yeah. Yeah. And it makes me wonder too, are they interacting with the same beings, or are those beings able to kind of manifest in different ways? Or maybe it's kind of saying the same thing, like like it is both the same being,
But with a different name, you mean?
or a different form maybe.
Absolutely different form. I do believe, in fact, we're going to have another co-host come on, and she's going to tell her story. And
I know that's
is, yes, yeah. It's a story of a miracle, but it's an angel, I feel, that took another form. And I don't want to take the shine off of her story, but I again, there are angels that have taken different form in different ancient texts of, and they speak of angels that spoke with Abraham in the desert, and they ate and they drank with him, but it was very clear that they were angels. Oftentimes they speak of angels that they come in human form. You never know, you could be entertaining an angel.
yeah, yeah. Well, and that's very, cool that you mentioned like them eating and drinking, because again, like I think especially in like pop culture and movies today, um sometimes they show angels interacting with the physical world, but often they're shown as beings that can't interact with our physical world. But like your example is showing how it's like these are divine beings or creatures or what have you, who are able to work with the physical, which kind of takes me back to what I was wondering earlier, is an angel able to exist simultaneously in every dimension? And you think about it, the physical world is one dimension.
Yes, you know what? Again, I'm sorry that I can't give you definite like scripture, but this is more than just the Christian culture, or when
Sure.
you go back to
So there's no
like
problem.
the Old Testament, they talk about angels showing Daniel things that are going to happen in the future. Look at the book of Revelations. It's occurring. Many theologians will say right now. But different cultures across the world, they have had angels or information like given in a time frame that was way beyond, or
Yes.
even a short time frame, like seeing somebody, Jesus seeing one of his disciples underneath a fruit tree, and the disciple was all marveling about that. He's like, you're marveling about that, just hang on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
So that was an intuitive ability, a psychic ability, but that was a divine being that could see through time and space right there.
right, right. And how else could they do it except that they also exist in dimensions where time and space don't exist? So there's no difference between
Hey,
that.
wait, that's a really good question. And again, I want to throw it out there to our viewers. We want to hear your stories. So please send them in, and we want to hear your positive input. So, but from that, I want to go on with time and space with angelic divine beings. Uh, Look at many of the psychic mediums, and we all have that ability. It's just to what degree do we want to take it?
Mm-hmm.
But psychic mediums can do astro travel. They could. You do it all the time, Aggie. You're a
Yeah,
reader.
that's true.
So
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I
It is
have
always fun.
talked to you before about things that happened in the past, and you're able to bring your awareness there
Mm-hmm.
and into the future. So, and we're not even divine. Well, we are divine, but we're not angelic beings, and we're able to do that.
Yeah. Well, that's a great point. Um, and yeah, it does bring you back to, well, why are they here? Why are they helping us? And I guess, at some level, it seems to me that, by their nature of being close to the divine, they would, it would just be part of their makeup that they would want to help other light beings, such as we are, to get closer to the light. So,
Correct.
and it does feel like we're in this space or this age now where we are beginning to exercise at a deeper level our, I guess, what you like to call knowing sometimes, right? That psychic ability.
Yeah, the knowing awareness.
Yeah,
Yes.
that we all do have, but it is like a muscle, and it has to be trained to some degree, especially in the culture we grew up in, which is largely been wary of that and shut it down and to some degree, and you kind of have to undo some of that training. Because you do see in kids now, like the level I've seen, like a level of intuition that is astounding sometimes.
Yes. 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 I see it in my grandchildren.
Mhm.
And even I'm a great grandmother, and I was looking at the eyes of my great granddaughter, and I thought, my God, she's so intelligent and intuitive.
Mm.
So it's going to be remarkable. I'm excited to watch her grow because I think her abilities, as you just said, it's just the youth. They're becoming more aware.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So yeah, so it makes me wonder if, like, the increased frequency of encounters that I'm having and that I'm hearing about are because we are getting ready. And in fact, like I think I've shared this with you maybe, but I've been doing some more direct channeling, and in this past year, I started connecting more closely with my guides, and they gave me their name as the Elohim. And me, like I embrace all kinds of spirituality, but I don't actually know a whole lot. I don't think I know as much about like scripture as you do, because um, you have studied it much longer. But I know, I was like, oh, the Elohim, I know that's some kind of angel. But so it's interesting to me because that's the name that came to me, despite the fact that I didn't have a huge education and what that meant, which to me
Oh
was
my
the more
goodness.
validation, because it was like, how would I have known that name without even having that
You
education?
don't have to have an education for the divine.
Right.
Look, I tell, look, as far as it goes, education or not, I can be very much like a donkey. And if the divine can use animals and a donkey, he could use me.
It's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Hey, talking about you were just, what were you just saying? Finish that
So
thought off.
that I had been doing some more direct channeling, as in trying to kind of
And your
shut
angel.
down my ego a little bit to let them come in and just kind of speak directly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your angel.
Mhm.
So that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are getting uh, mentally, physically, and spiritually stronger and more balanced. And with that, their awareness is going to increase.
Yeah. 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 And I feel like when you talk about strength, I feel like we could do a whole episode on that too, because as you know, I have been going through a big period of healing for a lot of different reasons. But I do feel like for whatever reason, a lot of us this year have been going through a big period of healing to get stronger. Uh,
Uh-huh.
and there's been a lot that I've needed to do and continue to need to do to support myself physically, in terms of like eating better and sleeping and nutrition and supplements. So that I'm just putting a little pin in that. We should do an episode on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Uh, and you know what? Dream episode. So I'd like to hear um, our viewers send in emails about your dreams.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. And yeah, and that's a great point. Like this is kind of our kickoff episode. So as you can see, it's not really scripted. We're kind of all over the place. But so because of that, like if anything you're hearing, if it's jogging a thought in you, like it doesn't have to be about anything we talked about. Like we would welcome like
it's
all.
the unusual, the
Yeah.
unusual, the
Yeah.
unusual. And in fact, when I, I lived an unusual life.
Yes.
So I do have quite of an unusual experience. And being a psychic medium and a spiritualist, I really don't have a title for myself. Facilitator of the healing arts. I don't have a title,
Yeah.
but I will say that I've had an unusual life. And one of the things that I do is I get up every morning and I surround myself with a light. And that has no religion to it. And I really start my practice of spiritual and then walking. I started walking every day.
Mm.
And you're right, that's all a part of being, and your emotions are clear indicators
Mm.
of what's good and not good in a person's life. So
Yeah.
pay clear attention to your emotions. That doesn't mean that a person should run with their emotions, but they're indicators.
Hmm. Hmm. No.
That could be our episode.
Yes, it could. Yes, it could. And I love that you brought up nature because that is one of the things that you've been encouraging me to do, and I have been doing more to heal myself, is even just walking in nature. You said you saw fairies around me. I definitely feel them around me when I am outside. I know they're in my little terrarium too. That's why I have a little fairy bench in there. But I feel it like in and it's funny to even say get out in nature because you think about the way humans used to be, as animals ourselves, we're part of nature. And you think about like
Designed to be hunters and gatherers.
and how removed we've become to the point where you have to physically choose to connect with nature.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
we're so like isolated from it. And that has an impact too, I think, on intuition, and how
Oh,
easily
yes.
we connect.
Exactly. Just like when you said about hearing the dog bird or the birds chirping, or, if I hear my rooster start crowing and it's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, all those things are out of the ordinary.
Mhm.
And I do kind of pay attention to that
Yeah.
when it's nature. It's nature. Um, yeah. Yeah. And in nature, I I feel that we need to be more in nature. Yes.
It makes me wonder, how much knowledge we've forgotten that we used to have simply because our ancestors spent more time listening and picking up on things because they were just in it all day, and we're.
Very good point. Very, and paying attention to synchronicities.
Mhm.
Sometimes we get so busy, we do not pay attention to synchronicities, which I feel that's the language of the divine.
Mhm. Mhm.
Synchronicities, language of the divine. And a lot of people are not quiet enough or really focused enough to pay attention to the synchronicities, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah, but no, you're so right. I mean, in other like you talked about having, an awareness of angelic presence. Like I can think of when I'm moved from Pittsburgh down to North Carolina, and you have to take, what is it, 90, 91, 97, whatever goes like north south through West Virginia. It's gorgeous, but you go through the mountains and it's kind of terrifying because you have these huge bridges, and there's one that it's got an overlook actually. Like people will, I think they like skydive off it or something crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just,
yes.
yeah, it's really high. And I had to make that trip a few times before I moved. And I was always terrified to cross that bridge. And I remember I had the radio on and I just talked to my angels and I just was like, I don't expect you to do this, but I was like, but it sure would make me feel better if you would just play this specific song, right? It was like, as I cross this bridge, so I'll know that you're watching out for me. And I kid you not, I had that thought maybe 30 seconds before I was approaching that bridge. I hit that bridge and that song came on. And it was like, they were like, huh, you didn't think we were going to do it. I was like, yeah, you got me. So it is those synchronicities.
I want to hear more stories like that. So again, I want to ask our viewers, please,
yes, please
send in your angel stories. We'd like to hear them. You know, I wanted to say, Agatha, I've had your awareness and asking about that, and there it was. My father has been deceased now for years, decades, and I was talking to him one morning. And you know how on the television they have the music channel, you could just have it on and, you know, walk around the house or as you're cleaning, whatnot. I was in my bedroom with that was on in the living room, and I was talking to my father, and next thing I know, I wanted a validation that he was right there with me. And when I walked into the living room, the song Daddy's Home to Stay.
Wow.
I actually stopped what I was doing and I slow danced with my father in the living room.
Oh, that's sweet. It's really sweet.
So that was his saying, I'm here with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so they are definitely here with us.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so many cool stories like that. Well, should we wrap it up? Is there anything else that you want to cover for this episode?
No, I think this is our first take, so let's get it out there. And we'd like to use your stories. We're going to have another host or two possibly join us. Another colleague of ours, Agatha, is Aggie is Grow Green Girl. She'll tell you more about herself in the link below. But we have another friend of ours, Tower Cup Girl, and her name's Kenya. And I think she wouldn't mind if we put her in a link below because I'd like to have her on.
Yeah, I would too.
She has a story to tell. I'm sure Kenya has stories.
If nothing else, you got to check out her channel because she's awesome.
Yes, yes. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you everyone for listening. And if you have other ideas for topics that we haven't mentioned, definitely give a shout out to us about those as well. So see you next time. Bye.